didn't happen overnight, right? So over a couple years, I saw, just a change in myself and my values. And then that really became amplified during the pandemic. And one of the things I realized is I wasn't interested in necessarily leadership positions anymore. And I wasn't just interested in kind of chasing the buck or the next title or any of that. So I um, enlisted a lot of help from people around me. So um, I'm a big believer in not doing things on your own.
We often hear people wishing us a long, happy, and healthy life. But what if the length isn't what matters most? What if instead it's the breadth, depth, and purpose of each day that matters most? Welcome to the Live the Width of Your Life podcast. My name is Aneta Ardelian Kuzma, and join me weekly as I interview guests who made changes in their own lives to live more fully with intention, gratitude, and joy. Be prepared to be inspired by their stories of how they shifted their mindset, took courageous action, and designed the life that they always wanted to live. Today's guest is Brian Hatfield, a recruiter and volunteer from Phoenix, Arizona. Brian is an early riser who starts each day with a healthy mindset, proud member of the LGBTQ plus community, an adopted parent to a special needs kiddo who loves the outdoors and especially exploring hiking trails and the national parks. At work, relationships are paramount, and he considers himself lucky to have forged a successful career in the people business. In the community, he is a relentless do-gooder who loves to take on a worthy cause, and he prides himself on building lifelong personal and professional relationships. He's an active volunteer who'd rather paint a wall than sit on a committee. He has many organizations that are near and dear to his heart, and I am so lucky to call him a dear friend for the last 30 years. Welcome today, Brian. Brian, thank you so much for joining today. How are you doing?
I am doing pretty fantastic. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and it is starting to cool down a little bit. September is still not fall, but the mornings are cooler. So I am able to do those things that I like to do that keep me happy and healthy, starting with my morning walks and my morning routine. So it's nice to have a break in the heat, and we're entering the beautiful season here in Arizona.
Oh my gosh. Well, we had crazy thunderstorms this morning in Cleveland. I was teaching meditation and it sounded like somebody was in my home upstairs. I was in the basement and I came upstairs. It was just thunder and lightning. So that interrupted my morning walk this morning. But, it happens with the change of season.
Hard to meditate with thunder outside, right?
It was a little distracting. Well, Brian, you and I met, and it's so hard for me to believe, sophomore year of college, which I know that for those that are watching, it'll be hard to believe, but was over 30 years ago. Is that
Insane.
not crazy to
Insane.
you? Right?
Yes.
And I am so grateful that we met and that we have been able to maintain and nurture our relationship throughout the years, through all of these, everything that life brings our ways. And so, for those that don't know you, will you share a little bit more about your background? And you shared that you live in Arizona, but what else would you like to share about yourself?
Yeah, so I grew up in a kind of a working class family in Dayton, Ohio. Like you mentioned, we went to Miami University together, and I've moved around quite a bit in my life. So I've lived in Phoenix, Arizona, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Dallas. This is my second stint in Phoenix, actually. So I've been here long enough where I consider it home. I love the desert. I love the outdoor opportunities that this state affords. I'm a part of the LGBT community, and I have a special needs son who I adopted almost 6 years ago. His name's Tristan.
Oh my gosh. Thanks for sharing that. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this when you came to visit before you and Steve adopted Tristan, and you guys were over for dinner. You were visiting friends in Cleveland, and you talked about and you showed me your book that you and Steve were looking to adopt and wanted to create a family. And we talked a little bit about some of the challenges or concerns you had just being in the state of Arizona And then soon after that, you were able to bring Tristan home. So, for those that might be considering adoption or maybe that are interested in your journey, will you share a little bit more about that experience with us?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, Steve and I got married right after marriage equality passed, and it was pretty soon after that that we decided we wanted to start a family. So, those early years in our relationship in my marriage were things were just kind of coming fast and furiously. So Steve had decided to start a company. He left his job. We had second mortgages on the house. We had a second mortgage on his dad's house. Like we were just going, or he was going through this very um, entrepreneurial state in his career, and everything just worked out fabulously. He started the company. It was acquired by another company, and we had just decided that we had the love and the resources to start a family.
Mm.
So we went through the adoption process. We were in our 40s at that time, and one of the things that we had figured out two things early on is number one, um, we wanted to adopt an older child because older children are less likely to get adopted, right? So once
Mhm.
a kiddo reaches about 5 years old, the chances of him or her getting adopted are slim to none. And then secondly, like just being in our 40s, we needed an end game, right? So we didn't want to adopt too young because we still have personal goals that we want to accomplish. So as we were going through that process, I really threw myself into the adoption community through my volunteerism, through my activism, and if I did anything right during that time was I just built a network or a community is probably a better word. I built a
Mm.
community around me of people that really supported us and championed us. Um, at one point we had so when you're going through the adoption process it can be a little bit like shopping, right? So you can
Yeah.
say I want a boy or a girl or what age group, even what race you would consider, and we were pretty much open to everything except special needs. In all honesty, we
Mm.
didn't know if we had the resources to do that, and um, I became involved with this group called Foster Arizona, and they were having a kids connection event at a local zoo. So we had volunteered to kind of be host for kids that were in group homes. So just by chance or by luck, Steve and I were paired with um, about a dozen kids that were living in a group home that were all special needs kids, mostly on the
Mm.
autism spectrum, right? And it was a life-changing day for us. So, just by chance, one of the little kiddos kind of had attached to me, one had attached to Steve, and we had just had just this totally remarkable day that ended up changing our lives. So we came back and had many, many conversations, and then we decided to tell our adoption specialist at Arizona's Children's Association that we would consider a kiddo on the spectrum. And then we were matched with Tristan. And 5 years later, I'm the parent of a moody teenager.
An amazing, amazing teenager, and you guys have such a beautiful family. And it's so amazing to see just the pictures from when you first adopted him and brought him home, and to now he is like grown like what 2 feet tall, too much feet taller.
Yeah,
He's so
he's
tall.
my height. He's 6'1", and yeah, he's grown so much. The amount of hormones flowing through that kid's body is insane right now, just with all the growth that he's got going on. But yeah, so just right now, trying to figure out how to parent a teenage boy. That's the challenge of the day.
Oh my gosh. So tell me a little bit about what you've discovered about yourself during the adoption process and maybe even through parenting.
Yeah, the most surprising thing is we go way back. I am the nurturer of the family. I thought I was going to be all love and kisses and hugs and all of that, and I certainly am. But I was not expecting to be the disciplinarian, and I'm that too. So I've learned. I'm learning now to. Um, to try to keep a level playing field, right, with my emotions and not to escalate. But yeah, I was not expecting to be the disciplinarian of the family, and that I certainly am. So that was just
Oh,
a little bit
that's
of a
so funny.
surprise.
It is a surprise. You never know what type of parent you'll be, but just seeing you guys and your family, it looks like you're quite a natural. So,
Thank you. I
congratulations
appreciate
on
it.
that.
Best thing
You're
I've ever
welcome.
done. Best thing I've
Oh
ever
my
done.
gosh. So you guys have also an interesting community, as you said. So you're able to connect with other parents within the LGBTQ community who have also adopted, and just within the adoption community. So what does that look like for you guys? How are you able to create this community and also to continue to stay very involved?
Yeah, so my career is in talent acquisition. I'm a recruiter, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'm naturally one that just connects people. So I just kind of lead with curiosity, and everybody I meet, I just talk to,
Mm,
and yeah, I've just been able to build like some bridges and share my own experiences, right? So as we're going through the process, trying to figure out, the best schools to send a kiddo on the spectrum, trying to find out the best doctor, the best guitar teacher, the best piano
yeah.
teacher. And so I'm always just willing to share those experiences. So I think it's just kind of naturally unfolded because it's it's who I am, but it's also my professional skill set too to kind of connect people. But I am, I'm the benefactor and the recipient of so many people that just truly champion what we're doing. So,
Mm.
they say what Hillary Clinton, right? It takes a
Takes a
village. I
village.
firmly believe that because there is no way we could do this on our own without the support of those people that love us.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. And one of the other things that I know that you also did recently is that you decided to make a career change. So I know that you've been in HR, you've been a recruiter, and you've spent so much time and you're very successful doing it. But you recently made a change to a different organization. And so walk us through what that process was like, and why you chose to make a switch.
Yeah. So it was not easy. It was not easy at
Yeah.
all. I think, much to my own surprise, I think I experienced professional success pretty early in life. In my late 20s, early 30s, I was in a leadership position um, with a recruitment agency. And by, so many factors, you could, just, tout me as a success, if you will. But I think
Mm,
a change started happening when I first, in my own personal values, when we first adopted Tristan, and it just didn't happen overnight, right? So over a
yeah.
couple years, I saw, just a change in myself and my values, and then that really became amplified during the pandemic. And one of the things I realized is I wasn't interested in necessarily leadership positions anymore. And I wasn't just interested in kind of chasing the buck or the next title or
Yeah.
any of that. So I um, enlisted a lot of help from people around me. So um, I'm a big believer in not doing things on your own. So I have um, coaches, therapists, counselors. I have a lot of people in my life that really help guide me. So I did utilize a career coach to help me figure out this transition and to help me kind of funnel all of these emotions. And for me specifically, one of the things I realized anymore is I just didn't want to be in a leadership position anymore.
Mhm.
And I had the opportunity to kind of take a step back and say, you know what, I think I would be happier being in a kind of a purely production recruiting mode, recruiting position, and not have those stresses that come with leadership. And that, especially, I don't know, maybe as a man, that's a little bit harder to reconcile.
Yeah.
But I did, and I actually took a step back in my career and said, I kind of want to focus on kind of what my true talents are, and I'm not chasing that next title or that next kind of pay grade, if you will. And I wanted to work for a company where that was more aligned with my values.
Mhm.
So I kind of thought that was going to be in the nonprofit world, but I wasn't 100% positive. And yeah, 6 months ago, I landed at American Cancer Society, and taking a step back was probably the one of the best career decisions I ever made, or at least it was really right for me at this time in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you did that. And one of the first things I do with all my clients as well is to say, let's define what your life values are. Because I
Yeah.
always feel that when people say their life is out of balance, is because their daily choices don't align to their life values. And then we're not in integrity with ourselves and we find that like something is wrong. So when you were doing that assessment, as you were thinking through, what are some of those values that you knew were so important to you and you needed to make sure that they were aligned in your next career position?
Yeah, so for me, I just wanted, like I said, I didn't check, I didn't purposely seek out American Cancer Society, but I did want to seek out some sort of career or some sort of organization where I felt that I was using my talents to
Mhm.
kind of benefit society at large, right? To somehow make a difference in other people's lives, and that was kind of solely the thing that I was looking for. And then beyond that, it's just the trials and tribulations of trying to find a new job and trying to find a new job at 50 years old. So,
Right.
even though I've spent decades in this space, I encountered challenges and setbacks that were a little surprising to me. So I'm really
Mhm.
grateful that things worked out the way they did.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting that sometimes it takes us getting to a level of external success and achieving all those things that sometimes we weren't even sure we'd achieve in order to say, wow, that's not it. That's not what's going to provide this sustainable joy or what I want longer term. And so you said it was a step back, but I like to say it's a pivot, you know. You just intentionally chose to pivot to something else, which is very empowering. So
Yeah.
congratulations for being able to do that and sort of redefining what success looks like for you on your own terms.
Yeah. Well said. Thank you. That summed it up perfectly.
Yeah. So you mentioned the big 50.
Yeah.
And so we all turned 50, right? So we went to school together, and I just came back from a little reunion with my college friends, 8 of us, the girls. This past weekend, we were in Charleston and Isle of Palms. I know we were just talking before we started this recording about, our little trip. And I did say, and I want to make sure I say it and record it, that you guys, the men of our group that we were so close with, need to rent a house next time next door so we can all be there together because I think that that would be pretty amazing too.
I'm game. Sign
Recreating.
me up.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I loved last year was as you were approaching 50 and your 50th year, you made some strong commitments to yourself. I know you had some personal goals that you were working on. And it really was, for me, watching, it was almost like this pilgrimage to 50. It was like this intentional setting forth of what you wanted. And it wasn't just hitting your birthday, but it was actually almost like preparing for 50 and then this next chapter. So, can you just tell us about what was going through your mind and some of the things that you did for those that, weren't familiar with your journey?
Yeah. It kind of unfolded naturally. When a year ago, I was not living my best life. Like we already talked about the
Mm,
career and some of the other things, but
yeah.
I had some sadness in my life. I was overweight. I just wasn't living my best life. So it really started off with a physical goal. And that physical goal was I wanted to lose 50 pounds by my 50th
Gosh.
birthday. So I created a little hashtag. I put it on social media because that's my way of holding myself accountable. So it
Yep.
started off 50 by 50, which was losing 50 pounds by my 50th birthday. But then, like I said, it just unfurlowed in a better way. I decided that I wanted a more rewarding career, that I wanted to cultivate and nurture more meaningful friendships, that I wanted to live joyfully, how I wanted to shape my son's teenage years. So with
Mhm.
that came 50 other goals, or somewhere
Yeah.
near between you and I don't know if it was exactly 50, right? But
Yeah.
it was, you know, a subset of those were like for example, around experiencing joy. I wanted to do things that scared me. So whether that was going parasailing or taking tennis lessons or jokingly, one of them was wearing a Speedo on my 50th birthday. or just going jet skiing, or just doing all these little things that either got me out of my comfort zone or found a new way for me to inject joy into my life as I was
Mhm,
approaching 50. Because I think sometimes, when you're 50 years old, or you're approaching 50, or you're just getting older, um, sometimes it can be like I've already done everything, or I've seen everything, and that sense
mhm,
of wonder
mhm.
can diminish. And I just wanted to inject that back in my life. So whatever kind of harebrained idea that I got that would, like I said, inject joy or scare me or whatever, then I just kind of added it to my list and started checking things off, throughout my 49th year.
Oh my gosh. Was it the best year of your life? Like,
I've thought about this. So yes, I I don't know if it was the best year of my life, but my 49th year was awesome because I was living it intentionally. And I'll tell you, kind of a struggle that I'm having right now
yeah,
is it felt a bit like Christmas morning. And what I
uh,
mean by that is all the preparations going up before 50. That's the fun stuff, right? Just all the preparation about Christmas, right? You're
yeah.
putting the lights up, you're baking cookies, you're doing all of that fun stuff. And then after you scramble and open all the presents, it's like, okay, what do I do with myself now? So that happened to me on my 50th birthday, right? So after I went through a full year of like living with purpose and trying to live courageously and kind of literally just checking things off, then it felt a bit like Christmas morning. So now I'm struggling a little bit. I'm trying to find ways to inject that same enthusiasm
Mm,
back into my daily routine. So if you got any
mhm.
tips for me, I'm all ears.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love that you said it felt like Christmas morning because there's when we work in a finite set of dates, right? You're like, okay, this year, here's all the things I want to do. And then the day arrives. Then what do you do the next morning?
Right.
So, yeah, how do you create like sustainable goals or sustainable sort of intentions going forward? So, I would say whatever you did to find what you wanted to do that year, I love these themes that you said of breaking out of your comfort zone, choosing to be courageous, this creating this sense of wonder and curiosity throughout the day. Those are beautiful things to be able to use as themes as you look at each month or each quarter or each year, and then working with your partner and with your children, your family, your friends, even to say, these are the things I want to do. Who else wants to join me? Because there are some solo trips and there are some things that you could do with other people who maybe want to do the same thing with you. So, actually, why don't we start this with our friend group? I mean, how amazing to say who else wants to inject themselves with a sense of wonder and curiosity and joy? I mean, who's going to say no to that?
Exactly. Yeah. And so, for me, it was like I had that line in the sand, that turning 50, that big monumental,
Yeah.
moment with a goal, like you said, something finite. So I got to figure that out. I haven't
Yeah.
yet, but
Hmm.
I'm committed to the process. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Are there things that you started, either new routines or healthy habits or just a different way of looking at life that you started in your 49th year that you have continued past your 50th?
Yeah, so there's somebody that I follow in a book that I read called The Miracle Morning with Hal
Yes,
Elrod, and this was
I'm
kind of
reading it
like
right now.
yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
that was the catalyst for me. And as you know, like there's an acronym, it's called SAVERS, and it's S for
Yes.
silence or meditation, A for affirmations, V for visualizations, E for exercise, R for reading, and S for scribing. So I'm an early morning riser. So that gets me out of the day and that puts me in a very healthy, productive mindset. So I think that is something that I started and that I've continued, and especially um, the meditation practice, and then the exercise.
Hmm.
The exercises, the exercise piece was most beneficial. I have the hardest time with scribing or journaling, so if I ever
Okay.
don't check anything off the box, it's that one. So I
Uh-huh.
should probably develop a new habit around that.
You know, I would say with that, because I do write every day, that's one I do. I do all those things as well. And I want to talk about meditation in a moment. But with the journaling, what I started to do when I first made my career change and I started on my own transformation journey is I just started a Word document and I write every day when I first wake up because with my morning cup of coffee and I light a candle, like I create a ritual around it. And it's so nice so early in the morning when we're so connected to our subconscious mind before the day sort of sets, before we start our day, to really just check in and just say, how am I feeling? What did I appreciate about yesterday? And you can just have some thought starters that you can create for yourself that allows you to journal, like, what am I most grateful for today? Or what's the type of person that I want to be? Or who do I want to reach out to? A couple of those things that might get you started. And they could be the same thing every day, and then you just start writing. I find that usually those things sort of unclog whatever is keeping me stuck, and it's so amazing to be able to go back because I don't have very good penmanship to read my typed words of what was going on that day and just to see if there's any seasonal things that are happening with me. But the best part is going back and just seeing if there's any fears or worries that I had. I always write them down, and then just to see the next day, the day after, the week after, how it all works out and how it was fully supported the entire time. It's
So is it
amazing.
stream of sorry to interrupt. Is it stream of
Yeah.
conscious for you, or do you kind of do you follow a template of some sort?
It's a stream of consciousness for me, but even this morning I was journaling about what this weekend with the girls meant, and it turned into a blog. Like I literally wrote it in like 5 minutes and then just sent it out. And so sometimes it turns into a lot of my posts, are from my stream of consciousness of what I'm feeling that day. A lot of times it'll happen if I write after meditation. I usually get a spark of inspiration or something that happens then, and that could turn into something. It could be a couple of sentences, it could be paragraph or an entire page. You just never know what's going to come out, but it's
We've talked
helpful.
about, this call we're talking about like these the wisdom that you get when that you get when you're turning 50 or you're a little bit more
Yeah.
mature. But don't you wish that you would have had this wisdom or these tools earlier in life? Because who knows what could have been what could be possible if I just wish I would have learned all this earlier.
Yeah, right. Yes, and yes and no, I guess. Yes, because who knows what could have happened, but also there's so much wisdom and learning in the hands when we screw up and when we make mistakes and when we don't do things perfectly, right? Like there's so much knowledge and wisdom going through it ourselves, not just reading about someone else's experiences. So I don't know that there's too many shortcuts that we can take.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
have Tristan and I have a pretty long commute to his school, so it's a half an hour each way. So on the half an hour drive to school, I try to impart this wisdom as much as I can. So
Yes.
we say as we're driving to school, we say our little prayers, and we say,
Mm.
what are you grateful for? And when he gets out of the car, I kind of have a ritual, and I always tell him, I love you more than all the hares and all the bears and all the world. And but I'm also like, you are smart, you are kind, you are a leader, you can
Yeah.
accomplish this, because I want to instill that confidence and at least little nuggets of this that I can in him in that focused time that I have with him
Yeah.
while we're commuting.
Aren't car rides are amazing because I feel like for some reason kids talk more in the car and there is sort of a stream of consciousness and it just seems like a safe environment. I found it the same way with my own kids, but does he sit next to you like side by side? You guys are
Yeah, I think that's part of it, right? Because
yeah.
especially him being on the spectrum, he's not really great with eye contact. So I think when I'm
Yep.
focused on the road and he's looking forward, it's
Yes.
it's a little bit safer for him not to have to look me in the eye and be that vulnerable. So yeah, that
Yeah.
my car ride is like my parenting hour, right? So a half an hour we're doing that stuff. And then when I'm driving home, I listen to an audiobook on parenting of some
Mm.
sort. So that's just my
Mhm.
dedicated kind of time block, if you will, for trying to make
Yep.
myself the best parent that I can.
Oh my God, I love it. So, speaking of all these lessons and all this wisdom that we've gained, is there one particular thing that you wish you'd known when we were, undergrads in school or younger or early 20s? Is there Is it the meditation? Is it the affirmations? Is it, you know, uh, being more courageous, or, you know, aligning to your values? I don't know if there's one thing, if you could pick. Maybe I'll let you have two or three, but
Um, it would probably, probably be just about living in the present because
mm,
um, I think we spend, as humans, we spend so much time thinking about what's next, what's that next goal, what's that next accomplishment. What are you going to do when you drop them off at school, right? So it's probably
yeah.
just to kind of savor the moment.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess in the past, to savor our youth.
Yes, right. I love that one. And for me, I think often I think that if I had a meditation practice back then, I would learn to be present. I would learn to have better control of my emotions. I would be more reflective. I would just be healthier overall. So I wish I knew or learned how to meditate at a very young age. And so I love when I see that some schools have introduced meditation at a young age for students, or that they've introduced meditation into the prison system and in other, or to communities, that typically are underserved in terms of wellness. So it's something that is free and it's easy to be able to do. You just need someone to help you guide you through it. So that's
Yeah.
probably one thing that I wish I knew how to do when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah. I would,
Yeah.
I, um, it's funny. I met up with some old friends. I was in P Town not too long ago, and I had dinner with Albert Krug, and who's a college friend of ours, and his wife and his
Yep.
sister, who I have not seen in ages. And she
Yep.
had made a comment. She's like, "You're much calmer than you used to be." um, I mean, jokingly, it's because I'm old and tired, but I do attribute that to just kind of being more thoughtful. And I try to.
Yep.
Um, it's funny when I see, we've had the opportunity to see each other a couple times over the last couple of years, and I
Yeah.
notice, like, I'm an observer, and I notice you always take a beat before you respond,
Mm.
and you take a breath, and I've always admired that about you. It's not a skill that I've mastered, but I would like to just be able to slow down and collect my thoughts before I put something out into into the universe.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think you do a great job. So, but I appreciate the compliment, Brian. Thank you. And you are very observant. And the other thing that I love is that you spend time reaching out to friends.
I do.
You've traveled a lot. You came and stayed with us, which I loved. And you just mentioned being, in Boston with Albert. So, is it an intention that you have to be able to reach out and to spend time with friends? Like how have you always done this, or is this something that is
I
more
think I've
recent?
always done it. If I reflect
Yeah.
back to college, I think I was always kind of a connector or a networker there.
Yeah.
But yes, I think here locally in Phoenix, I think I have more acquaintances than I have deep friends, and a lot of
Mm,
times that's because these are work colleagues or um, spending time with like friends, like my son's parents' friends, right? And sometimes it can feel a little superficial. So, I know I have deep, meaningful friendships. I know that I'm loved. So I am consciously working on building that more for me locally. But I also,
mm,
am incredibly grateful to have. Um, these long lasting relationships, and you had said something in your post that I read about, we've seen each other at our best and we've seen each other
yeah.
at our worst, and we've been through ups and downs and
Yeah.
struggles. And um gosh, that almost makes me a little teary when I think about some of the things that we've all gone through. But yes, I purposely and intentionally make time to go see those people that I love.
Oh my God. I love it. And that's something that I'm challenging myself to do more of. And I think it does start with being more intentional and just deciding that it's so, right? And so there's something special about our group of friends. And I think we were trying to pinpoint it this weekend. We said, all of us are different. It's not like we're similar. We have different backgrounds. We came from different families, different, ethnic groups. Sometimes we identify as differently in so many ways, faith, etc. And yet we still found each other, and we've still maintained and nurtured these relationships over 30 years. And it doesn't happen all the time. I talk to many people who don't have the same experience, and I wish it so strongly for my own children who in their 20s. I want what we have for them, and they look at us with such admiration because they know everybody,
Yeah.
and I think they know how special it is. So what do you think, what was the special sauce with all of us? Was it meeting at Miami? Was it something in particular, or do you just think it's fate that just sort of brings people together and then the rest is up to us?
Probably fate. I do agree that I do think it was an extraordinary experience. I think that reflecting back, I think we were just focused primarily on our friendships. Like I don't think any of us were out there, overly focused on um, like a club scene, or, maybe part of it is being
Right.
in a small, nurturing community like Oxford,
Hmm.
Ohio, right?
Right.
And we weren't in, like, I could not have gone to a big city school. I was not nearly
Hmm.
mature enough for anything like that. So I think maybe being in that safe little bubble, um, really helped propel that. But I think sometimes it's just, sometimes there's just a little luck.
Yeah, I think so. We didn't have a definitive answer either, but I love what you'd shared. So what is next? Do you have any personal and professional goals, things that are on the horizon, that you've been thinking about?
So, right now, um, my son's 15. He's a sophomore in school, but he's not going to be on a traditional path. So, what I mean by that is he is going to be able to stay into the school system until he's 21. Um, so, I think right now our commitment is getting through this kind of stage in life, and I really want to shape his teenage years and allow him the
Yeah.
opportunity to experience some of the stuff that I have. But beyond that, um, you know, I I am kind of a minimalist at heart, and I don't think I need, like, for example, this house anymore, or
Mm.
some of those other things that people who are kind of keeping up with the Joneses might want. So, I spend a lot of time daydreaming about being a digital nomad. So I think
Yeah.
once we kind of get Tristan through this stage in life, I just kind of want to strip away a lot of um, the possessions that I might have tied myself to, because
Hmm.
each passing day they mean less and less to me. So I don't need the
Yeah.
house or the cars or anything. What I do crave is experiences.
Mm.
I love nature. As you know, I'm a national park geek, so I try to do
Yeah.
3 national parks a year. Um, and so travel is important. And we started talking about like turning 60. I
Mm.
There's a lot of things that I want to do in life that I want to make sure that I can do now when my body is
Yeah.
capable of doing it, right? So I want to hike mountains. We're planning a hiking adventure to Switzerland, all of that stuff. So, if you think about it this way, you've probably got a finite number of trips that you can take in the next year. So I'm really
Yeah.
focused on kind of those more high intensity trips that I can do. And then beyond that, I'll take the cruise to Alaska when I'm 80, right? So right now, I just kind of have a list of things that, I have. My phone has multiple bucket lists, but I have these bucket lists that I want to do with regards to travel that are much more high adventure. So I'm just trying to figure out,
Hmm.
the hard part is resources, time and money, right? So figure out
Yeah.
how what are those top 10 or 20 things that I want to do, and start working through those. I'll do the cruise and the all inclusive vacation when I'm a little more tired than I am today.
I love it. I will join you because the experiences are definitely on my list. And I've been going through, I think maybe since our kids are out of the house, so we're a little bit ahead of you. We have just, I asked him, I said, anything that's left at the house is fair game. It means you don't want it and it's going to be gone. So we have been also just starting to remove things, declutter, but also, creating more beautiful spaces outside. I want to see flowers because I spend so much time here. It's what really does bring me joy, what brings us satisfaction. It's being able to enjoy the very short Cleveland summers and in the beautiful fall, and create a home where we can host people here if we can't go anywhere, just having people back at our home. But I'm with you, we're slowly just continuing to remove and minimalize what's important because it's so interesting. It's like the first half of our life we spend accumulating things and working towards purchases, and then I feel like the second half is all about like getting rid of all that stuff.
Yeah, it's freeing. It's absolutely
Yeah,
freeing. Yeah.
it's so freeing. So, Brian, the title of this podcast is Live the Width of Your Life. And it comes from a Diane Ackerman quote where she says, I don't want to have lived my full life and reach the end of it and realize that I only lived the length of it. I want to have lived the width of it as well. So, what does it mean for you to live the width of your life? And how do you choose to do that?
Yeah. So I think at my core, dovetailing a little on what we just talked about is inner freedom, right? So it's the inner freedom to be able to do, whatever it is that gives me joy and fulfillment, and so that's at the heart of everything. And then I kind of I envision it as a circle here, and then that next outer layer, Saturn's ring, if you will, is community. And for me, that, like we said, is just being able to make a positive impact in the communities that I'm a part of, the LGBT adoption community, the special needs parents community, and then just continuing to nurture those that I love.
Oh my God, that is so beautiful. And I am so grateful to be part of your community. I'm so grateful that our paths crossed and that we continue to develop and work on our friendship. It's so meaningful. So I will join you on some of those fun trips that require a bit more exertion, and then also the ones when we're old and we just want to go and cruise around. So, Brian, how can we best support you? Are there ways that we can become involved in some of the communities or even the American Heart Cancer Association? Tell us some of the ways that we can best support you personally and professionally.
Yeah, I think the organization that is closest and near and dear to my heart right now is a group called Foster Arizona. And what I've been working for with them is helping those kids that are aging out of the foster care system.
Oh,
So I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but I'll tell you, kids that don't get adopted, the likelihood of them ending up in jail or homeless
yeah.
is is just astronomical. So we're trying to give them a soft landing,
Mhm.
so that when they exit the system, they have kind of a gateway or transition. And so Foster Arizona is really working on helping provide um, shelter and housing and clothing and all of that good stuff. So I'm having a little um, next month. I'm having a little fundraiser here at my house, and we're just asking people to bring some cards. So I'll shoot a link over to you. So if anybody wants to
Please.
donate something to Foster Arizona, I can provide the link for that. And otherwise, just check them out. I realize it's an Arizona based nonprofit, but they do amazing
Mhm.
work. So I'll make sure to provide you with the links.
Thank you. I will include it in the show notes. And if anyone is curious to follow along on your many life adventures, what's the best way they can find you on social media?
Um, Probably my Instagram, which is Team Solid Family. So
Okay. Team
That's
Solid
that's our
Family.
yeah, that's our little family name.
Well, I am so grateful to you that you chose to spend today with me, and looking forward to many more conversations with you. And so please support Brian and the organizations that he is are that are important to him. And if you like today's episode, like it, share it with your friends, subscribe to hear more. And best of luck to you, Brian.
Bye. Thank you.